Darren, thank you so much for joining FF News' coverage of Sibos 2022. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
Yeah? Darren, could you tell our audience a bit more about yourself, please?
Indeed. So, Darren Parslow, based in New York. I've been with Visa a little over 20 years. I've been in the B2B space almost 30 years. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I'm fortunate I just dated myself. So, anyway.
You've given the game away.
I have indeed, yes.
Darren, could you tell our audience what you've been working on at Visa in the last couple of years? Because Visa have been going through some very exciting changes.
We have. And so I started at Visa in sales, managed some of the commercial accounts, and then went over and managed our commercial product area. Did some stints in acquiring, some processing stints, and for the last year I've run our business solutions team, which is everything from small business, micros, to middle market, large market, government. Anything that's not consumer to business.
Wow. Okay, so we're seeing businesses finally get a say when it comes to being banked or being looked after. Previously, continuously underbanked, but now, obviously, with Visa B2B Connect, and we're seeing Visa working with so many different partners, you're helping that. So, what customer expectations do you see at Visa from the end business client?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, over the last year, I think you've heard a lot of people talk about the consumerization of B2B, right? Some people call it the democratization of B2B payments. But the truth is, and the pandemic really, I think, helped this, companies are looking at ways to make the user experience better for B2B. And what does that mean? It means real time, it means safe, it means remote, it means mobile, not just digital, but mobile. And it's really kind of taking that personal payment experience that we all have and applying it to business payments. And I think that is, the sad truth, if you're my age, is that 75% of the workforce will be Gen Z or more in about 3 years, right? It means they've never been through a down cycle. It means they expect digital and digital first. And so your treasury management officers, your treasurer, your procurement officer, all will come with that lens. And they're expecting different things from the payment experience.
I can imagine now, if we look at those expectations, it's almost turning into demands, as you say, as Gen Z gets into these positions. No longer will there be a nice little, oh, that's nice, thank you for providing that. It'll be, if I don't get this service, I am leaving. Right. So what are some of the challenges around business payments that, or opportunities that you see coming in the couple of years, and how are Visa going to extend that to your customers?
Yeah, so, 20 years ago on stage, I was talking about legacy systems, inefficient processes, and 20 years later, we're still talking about legacy systems, inefficient processes. That's both at the bank level and at the end customer level, right? And so, the ability for banks to offer a digital first offering, an API offering, is as hard as a corporate consuming that offer. And so those are some of the challenges. What are we doing about it? And I think more importantly, what are some of the fintechs doing about it? And that's really forcing the providers, whether that's Visa in a B2B to B way, or the treasury management banks, or some of the other providers in our space, to really rethink. Again, I go back to what is that UX? What is the user experience, and how are we going to fix that?
Amazing. And I've got to get your insights. As you said,
Sure.
you've seen it all over the last couple of years, however many years.
Yeah.
And what trends do you think are going to be playing an impact? You've mentioned Gen Z already, I know.
Yep.
But when it comes to business decisions or what businesses want, what trends are you seeing there currently?
So, there's one thing that in the last 6 months, has become increasingly clear as I kind of run around with my clients around the world, and that is this notion of embedded finance. And the fact that you have a lot of really brilliant companies with brilliant value props and use cases for a specific industry or a specific platform or a specific capability, and then starting to add payments and financial services into their otherwise non-payment or non-financial offering is, I think, going to start shaking things up. And I think what you'll see as a trend is increasingly a network of providers and kind of modularizing the payment experience. And for those of us who are traditional players, we're going to need to actually figure out a way to operate with a much larger network of providers and partners and colleagues than what we traditionally have done, which is try to build it all ourselves.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got to ask, and feel free to tell me if you can't.
Sure.
Do you have any partnerships that you can announce that you've been particularly excited by? I know obviously you can't mention them all, but one that comes to mind?
So look, we have partnerships in different regions around the world, right? So in Asia, for instance, we've got some great supply chain finance partners and some great cloud accounting partners down in Australia and New Zealand. In the US, we've got some great partnerships on the online expense management side, companies like Ramp and Divvy. And so this notion of embedded finance, and those companies I mentioned specifically because we're adding payments to their business models. And again, I think it's this notion that with data, we're going to be able to do a lot more things around helping banks and other traditional players get better at what they're doing in B2B payments to kind of make our footprint in the space a little more rich.
Amazing. Now you've brought up embedded finance, one of my favorite things to talk about.
Good.
And I feel like at Visa, obviously, you're behind every card payment that a Visa user uses.
Yep.
You're there, front and center, but you're also, in a way, invisible. The customer doesn't have to think about using you. So if anyone knows anything about embedded finance, it's you guys. Oh. So, I mean, where do you think it's going? Give me your crystal ball. How can I get rich?
I go back to improving the UX in B2B. And if you have a value proposition that focuses on immediacy, it focuses on remote convenience and security and reliability, an unlock, if you will, for traditional players to actually handle whether it's domestic or cross-border payments. I do think cross-border is going to be quite an interesting trend for us to watch. Again, supply chain disruption, post-pandemic, business owners that are very resourceful have found other markets to get their goods and services, whether it's inventory or employees even. Yeah. And so we're seeing just this really great trend in cross-border transactions. So I think there's some things to watch there.
The globalization of payments.
Globalization of payments.
There we are. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Good seeing you.
Thank you.
Yep.